Hey everybody, it's Bricks, and I am joined by Twinkle here during a scheduled zero day that we're spending together in Damascus, Virginia before I move forward and conquer the state of Virginia on the AT. And rather than not produce any content during these couple of days that I'm resting and enjoying some time with Twinkle, I decided this would be a good time to check in with you and discuss my equipment so far on the Appalachian Trail and what has gone well, what has not gone as well as I had liked, some things that I've switched out, and even answer some of your questions. So Twinkle is going to take off here for a little bit, and I'm going to discuss these items with you. So let's go ahead and get started.
Bye, everyone.
So everybody, there are some things that have not gone as expected, and there are some things that I identified that needed to be improved thus far during my through hike from the start of my hike at Springer Mountain, Georgia, through the state of Georgia, through North Carolina, through the Smokies, the Roan Highlands, Tennessee, all of that. And so I wanted to share a couple of these items with you. So I've put timestamps for each of the items that I'm going to discuss in the description below. That way you can skip ahead to any of the subject areas that are more relevant to you or skip around however you may like. I would like to take a special moment and thank my subscribers. For those of you that have been tuning in and may not have subscribed, please go ahead and also take this time and hit that subscribe button, hit that notifications button, and by all means, absolutely leave any comments to anything that I discuss in this video. I do respond to all comments given enough time to respond. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So I identified some things that needed to be improved or some things that I could improve on, and particularly some socks that I have started using. I identified a flaw in my Zpacks Vertice Rain Pants, and I'd like to share how the customer service experience was in getting those pants replaced. I want to also share a separate flaw with some of my Zpacks equipment, and particularly the frame on my Zpacks Arcall Zip backpack, and just something I've identified that is not a war stopper by any means, but it's just something to be aware of with this type of backpack. I want to discuss a change in my water filtration collection system that I've identified primarily because of the types of water sources I've experienced, particularly in the state of Tennessee. And I also want to answer a viewer's question about the accuracy of the thermometer that I use on my backpack. So this is what we're going to discuss today, and we're going to just jump right on in. So first, I'd like to talk about my switch to a different pair of socks that I'm using. So when I was just starting out, still in the state of Georgia, for the first time in 30 years of hiking and backpacking, I got a blister for the very first time. And I'm not someone who is typically prone to blisters. And what had happened in this occasion was my shoes had gotten wet from rain. And even though I was able to have dry socks and rotate out socks, the moisture in the shoe was enough to cause excess moisture against my feet and some movement, and that friction between my pinky toe and the toe next to it on my right foot caused a hot spot, and it actually developed into a blister. And so to combat that, I purchased and started using Injjnji Toe Socks. For those of you that may not be familiar with Injjnji, they are a toe sock. So the sock is built in so that there is a separate pocket for each one of your toes that you wear in the sock. And the benefit of this is that the extra layer of cloth creates an additional layer between each of your toes so that it reduces that friction even during times of excess moisture. And so there are three types of socks that I've identified that Injjnji uses. There's a base layer, there is a medium layer, and then there is an original layer of sock. The base layer is just what you would consider as with any other type of base layer. It is a layer that goes underneath other items against your skin. And so in this case, I use the base layer Injjnji socks underneath a pair of my Darn Tough socks. So this creates 2 layers of cloth to reduce that friction and reduce hot spots, like I had mentioned. And because it's a base layer, it's a thinner layer of material. And so it doesn't feel bulky on my feet. They work great. Oh my gosh, they are so super comfortable. And Injjnji Toe Socks are something that I think I'm going to adopt in the long haul. I don't wear them all the time, but I do wear them anytime either my shoes have not been able to dry out, if I'm expecting a long day of like wetness or something like that in my feet, or if I haven't been able to dry out my socks properly because of maybe days long of rain. On those cases when my shoes are dry, my feet are dry, I just use my regular pair of Darn Tough socks. But when I have those days of like wetness on my feet, I use the Injjnji Toe Socks underneath my Darn Tough socks as a second layer, and they're super comfortable. I did mention that Injjnji also has a medium layer, which is a little bit thicker of material. I have not used those, and I have not used the regular outer layer Injjnji Toe Socks either. They're made of a product called New Wool that is supposed to react and have the same properties of other types of wool materials to allow them to be moisture wicking and drying. I just don't have any experience with them. I would love to hear any comments from anybody that has had experience using the Injjnji outer layer socks and really even learn how they may compare to the quality of a sock like Darn Tough Smart Wool socks. Short of any of those comments, that is something that I want to experiment with in the future. Don't know if I'm going to do it while I'm on the Appalachian Trail, but it is definitely something I am interested in. So Injjnji Toe Socks, I think they're a definite permanent part of my backpack system. Don't know if they're going to be an appropriate system for you, but that being said, something to consider if you are prone to hot spots or blisters on your feet. So that being said, let's move on to the second item that I'd like to discuss, and that is my Zpacks Vertice pants. So about 3 weeks ago, when I was in Hot Springs, I identified a flaw in my Zpacks Vertice Rain Pants. Essentially, the seam seal tape on the inside of the pants that protect against water seepage at the sewed layer, that seam seal it lost its integrity. It lost its adhesive quality to the pants, and it started to come undone. This to me is a huge issue. Now, the particular location for this was in the crotch layer of the Zpacks pants. So it wasn't a huge issue. It didn't stop me from actually wearing them. But if there was ever an occasion, like if I was wearing them and I had to sit down on a wet log or a wet bench or a wet shelter even or something like that, you would have that risk of water seepage in through the sewed seams of the Zpacks pants. So this was a huge concern for me while I was hiking, especially since I was in the middle of a thru hike. But I do want to comment that my customer service experience with Zpacks on this particular issue was top-notch. I sent Zpacks an email through their customer service link on their webpage and explained to them the situation. I also attached photos showing the actual failure within the seam tape. And Zpacks typically has a policy that in order for them to replace an item, that you have to send the defective item back to them so that they can evaluate it. But in that same email, I explained to Zpacks that I was currently in the midst of my attempted thru hike and that I needed these pants for the purposes of my hiking. And so it was not reasonable for me to be able to send these back to them and wait for them to evaluate it. Within that message, within 24 hours, I got a response back from Zpacks explaining that they agreed that there was a defect in the material. Primarily, I would assume because of the photos that I had attached to it. And within that same email, they agreed to send me a replacement without any requirement for me to send them the existing pants or anything. It only took one other email exchange from me to confirm an address for them to send the new pants to. I could have had these pants sent to any location on the Appalachian Trail that I was going to arrive at, such as a hostel, a post office, or anything like that. But I was fortunate enough because I had already arranged a visit with Twinkle, who was going to join me in Damascus. So I had them send the replacement pants to my home address so that Twinkle could bring them to me. And so within a week time of reporting the defect, I had my replacement Zpacks Vertice pants. They do have a 1 to 3 day lead time in order to get the items out, but once the items were ready for shipment, they arrived within days to my home address. And so absolutely impressed with the customer service, absolutely happy with the way that Zpacks handled my complaint. So I want to give absolute credit to Zpacks and their customer service for the speed in which they help resolve this matter and to help maintain my satisfaction with using Zpacks equipment. So that was a good thing. So next, number 3 of the things that I want to talk about, and that is an existing flaw that I've identified with my Zpacks Arc-Haul Zip backpack. So on the Zpacks Arc-Haul backpack, there is a horizontal metal bar across the top of the backpack that acts as part of the external frame to hold everything within its shape, especially against your back as you wear it, so you get the integrity of the ventilation mesh in the back of it and the support that comes along with the frame. However, one thing that I have identified is that this bar is prone to becoming dislodged from how it is connected. So the bar wedges into slots on each of your shoulder straps at the top of the backpack. The issue that I have found is where the loop is at the top of the backpack that is used to either pick up your backpack or to hang your backpack from like a hook in a shelter or something of that nature. When your backpack is opened, it creates this slack in the backpack. And so while it's hanging, that excess slack causes torque or pressure to the outside of the straps, causing this to become dislodged. Another way that I found that this can become dislodged is if you pick up the backpack by a single shoulder strap, particularly while it's open, because when your backpack is opened, it loses its solid stiffness and stability, and it creates slack within the pack. So picking it up by a single chest strap causes that extra torque as well, and that can dislodge it. I don't think that this is a significant flaw within the backpack. It doesn't become dislodged on its own, and it doesn't happen often. It does, however, seem to happen whenever it is either being hung by the loop or when picking up the chest straps, particularly again when the backpack is open. So my solution to that is, one, when I pick up my backpack, particularly if it's open because I'm using it and I need to get some things out, I make it a point to pick it up using both chest straps at the same time. Or if it's open, rather than pick it up with the carrying handle at the top, I pick it up at the top of the opening of the pack. This allows me to keep the stability within the pack and preventing this from dislodging. Now, what could be done to further improve the design of this backpack so that that doesn't happen? A couple things that come to mind could be to potentially put the handle to lift or hang this up maybe further back on the backpack, but a simple rivet on the shoulder straps, whether or not it's a metal rivet or some type of synthetic material rivet or some type of locking cloth like 550 cord or something like that to hold this in place in the seams, I think would be something for them to consider. That's up to Zpacks to consider, even if this is something that is worthy of their redesign. Again, it's not a particular game changer or war stopper with the backpack that this can become dislodged. If it is dislodged. It's very easy to re-emplace the bar with just a little bit of torque. It's a very flexible bar. It's less than 1/8 of an inch thick. And so I've been able to just manually place it back into place whenever needed. But it is something that you should be aware of, particularly if you are considering buying a Zpacks Arcall backpack. So something that you may experience yourself. On to number 4. The 4th item that I would like to discuss is a change in my water collection for my water filtration system. So as many of you may know, I use the Katadyn Be-Free filter for my water filtration device. Totally happy with this filter. It's worked very well. I've filtered, I don't even know how many liters of water I've filtered at this point, but the flow rate remains very good. I like the ease and simplicity of this filter. I like the flow rate. I really like everything about the Katadyn Be-Free filter. I have been using the 1 liter Katadyn Be-Free bag that came with my original filter when I bought it. Very convenient. It's a 1 liter size. I'm able to collect water with it when there's a good flow, and it gives me an additional 1 liter bottle that I can use to drink from, to pour into my cook pot to cook from, or to fill my clean water bottle with as my regular part of my filtration process. The problem is, particularly in Tennessee, I noticed that there are definite water sources out there where there is a slow flow or a flat flow, meaning the flow of the water is too close to the surface for me to be able to fill this bottle if I turn it sideways to collect a thin stream of water that's flowing into the bottle. And the end result is, in those types of water sources that have a low flow or a flat flow, I haven't been able to fully fill this bottle. Even if I were to half fill it and ultimately filter water into my 1 liter bottle, and then when I go to refill this, ultimately I'm left with less than a liter in some cases from that. So in order to overcome this and identifying those types of water sources, I am switching to the CNOC water collection bag as my primary collection source. Now this will still allow me to use my Katadyn Be-Free filter that I love, only with a different collection bag. Just like so. What I do like about the CNOC bag is it does have a 42 millimeter cap, the same size as the Katadyn Be-Free filter, so that if I ever need to protect my filter because of freezing temperatures or anything like that, and take it out and put it in a bag and put it in my pocket so that it doesn't freeze, I can still keep water within the bag and keep it from leaking by using this cap. I've used a similar cap with my regular Katadyn 1 liter bottle. This one includes one already, but what I really like about the CNOC bag is it is fillable not only from the top, but it is fillable from the bottom as well. So by removing this locking bar, you can open it up. It opens up flat. This can be laid down against a low or flat flow stream of water, and it will allow me to fill up this bag, if not completely, at least to a 1 liter line. This is the 2 liter bag. CNOC also makes a 3 liter bag, and so I went with the 2 liter bag, knowing that I will only ever need to fill this up to 1 liter because I have a 1 liter smart bottle that I use for my clean water. I typically keep a liter of dirty, unfiltered water at any given time so that I can have 2 liters of water. This allows me to use that same purpose or that same solution, and even against a flat flow, I can lay this down flat, and when it's filled, I can close it up. I can add my filter. I can still drink directly from this if necessary. I can pour directly into a cook pot if I need to filter water. I can filter into my clean bottle. It does everything that my regular Katadyn bottle does, only it allows me to easier access to fill this for low or flat flow water sources. So this is the reservoir, the Vecto 2-liter from CNOC Outdoors. So that is the fourth item. Finally, number 5. Fifth thing that I'd like to discuss is the response to a question from actually 2 of my subscribers. I was asked a question about the accuracy of the thermometer that I use for my backpack. So as many probably know, I keep a thermometer, a digital thermometer on the outside of my backpack on the shoulder strap so that I can glance and check the temperature at any given time. I received a question of how accurate is that thermometer and does my body heat throw off the temperature for that? So I'm going to do a little test to see if my body heat actually does throw off the temperature of that thermometer. It is going to be an unscientific test, which means it's not in a controlled environment. I'm actually staying in the Dragonfly bed and breakfast with Twinkle. And so in this uncontrolled environment, I'm going to test that by looking at the temperature on the backpack while it's just sitting out, and then by putting on the backpack and after 5 minutes checking the temperature to see if there's a change. Now, as towards the accuracy of the thermometer, in this type of environment, it's going to be difficult for me to determine the accuracy of the thermometer as it might be compared to other thermometers, especially in an uncontrolled environment. So in order for me to accurately test that, I would need 1 or 2 other thermometers to also check or verify those temperatures against, and then just to see how that temperature may vary. I don't have access to those items right now, but at the very least, we can assume that the manufacturer has reasonably tested their thermometer for accuracy. And so really the big question is, does my body temperature change that? And so we're going to do a quick test real quick in order to check or verify that temperature. All right, everybody, so we're going to test the accuracy of my thermometer that I wear on my backpack. And by looking at the thermometer right now, we can see that where it is resting within my bed and breakfast room, it is currently reading 71.1 degrees Fahrenheit within this space. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the backpack. I'm going to wear the backpack in this same corner for 5 minutes, and then we're going to recheck the temperature to see if there's a difference. So everybody, I've been wearing the backpack now for 5 minutes in the same location that the backpack was in without me in it. And if you take a look, you can see that the temperature is now 74.3 degrees. So we started off at 71.1 degrees, and with me wearing the backpack for a period of 5 minutes, we can see that we went up by 3.3 degrees. So saying this, it is reasonable to assume that my body heat is increasing the temperature of the thermometer. Now that could be from a couple of things. It could be because of my ambient temperature of my skin and clothing. It could be the excess temperature of my breath as I'm talking near it. So what does this mean? I think it's reasonable to assume, one, yes, your body heat does affect the temperature by a matter of a couple of degrees at a minimum. Now, it's up to you whether or not this temperature change is significant enough. If I was outdoors in freezing temperature though, if my body heat were to increase this temperature at all, that could be a significant factor in my understanding of the temperature and my exposure and things of that nature. So I would give this recommendation. If you were going to use this type of thermometer, check the temperature when you are not wearing the backpack to get a reasonable understanding of the temperature unaffected by your body heat. So I do wear this thermometer on my shoulder straps so that I can look down and glance at it. I could move this to a different location on the backpack, further away from my face, even to the back where it's not even close to my skin. However, I would not be able to see it at all while I was wearing it, in which case, go back to my recommendation. If you were to place it in that type of location, or even in this, for the best gauge or reading and approximate reasonable expectation of accuracy, you'll want to check the thermometer when you're not wearing the backpack so that you can remove any consideration of your body heat from affecting the readout on the thermometer. So there you have it, folks. 5 things that I have either changed, verified, or switched out within my pack. We talked about the Injjnji socks that I'm using. We talked about my experience with Zpacks customer service, outstanding customer service, I might add, to replace a pair of defective pants. The identified flaw within my Zpacks Arcall backpack, my switch to the CNOC Outdoors Vecto2.0 water collection bag, and the answer to the accuracy of my thermometer that I use on my backpack. I hope this information has been valuable. I'm glad to have this opportunity to provide just a little bit more insight into my thru hike, particularly my observations with some of the equipment that I've been using. And I look forward to not only sharing the future updates of my thru hike and the footage and the video content, but also maybe additional future observations about my equipment along the way. So if this was helpful to you, again, please go ahead and hit that like button. If you're not a subscriber, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notifications button as well. For all of my subscribers that have been joining me on my journey, thank you so much. I continue to be blown away by the support. I'm glad to share this experience with you. I look forward to sharing content very soon of my upcoming trek through the state of Virginia. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thanks for joining me on my journey. I'm Bricks.